Kellie Fennell, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Dan.
I have a question for you. I'm going to hit you with it straight away. In your experience as a neuroscientist, as a coach, as a business owner, as a parent, is pain a prerequisite for change?
I love it. Straight in there.
Straight in.
Yes, I don't think you can gain wisdom, gain knowledge without some sort of sacrifice. I think, and personally, we had a chat about this before the episode. I had a lot of change in my life last year, a lot of shit to go through. And the person I am today, 2026, and it's not from a new year, new me perspective, I genuinely am a different version of myself coming into 2026 than I was in 2025. I mean, I'm happy and glad it happened now out the other side, but in saying that, it was absolute fucking hell going through that. But I genuinely don't think I would have got to this position that I'm in now had I not gone through that. So I think with every sacrifice, with every struggle in your life, you do gain some wisdom. And like, just if we were to simplify this right down, like I always laugh because when we had our girls, right, my siblings, most of them had kids before me. And, you know, I loved my nieces and nephews and done loads with them. And I was like, yeah, I love kids, right? And then when we had the girls, I was like, wow, this is so different. This is so different, right? And anyone with kids will understand. And I remember saying to my siblings, why didn't you tell me it was so hard? And their answer was, could you explain having kids to anybody who doesn't have kids? And you can't do it. And I'm not complaining about kids. They are the best thing that has ever happened to me. But does that make it easy? Does that make it come with zero sacrifice? The answer is no. So I believe that to get from A to B, you have to go through something, you know, and the real growth happens in the trenches. It happens in the struggle, because I know this, as cliche as this sounds, you do become a new version of yourself. And the quote pops into my life, into my head, a life unexamined is a life not worthwhile, right? And when I was going through the shit, one of my best friends, Sandra, she's a psychotherapist, she always used to laugh and say, fuck that quote. Like, you know, it's great. It's great to believe that and to do the work, yes. But wouldn't it be easy just to breeze through life and never have these, I suppose, struggles? But yeah, out the other side, it's so worth it. But to answer your question, I don't think you can gain wisdom from not going through the struggle, you know? Even think about, you know, as simple as body composition, which is kind of, you know, one part of my job, gaining muscle, all of those things. Your muscle cannot grow without struggle. That's what the thing that makes it grow, you know. And in a world where we have instant gratification at the tips of our hand, we have this device that can just give us endless amounts of dopamine, endless amounts of pleasure. Why would we choose to go through the struggle? And that's what's happening to a lot of people. We're addicted to instant gratification. We're addicted to dopamine hits. We forget that in order to get something worthwhile, one, it's not going to happen overnight, and two, it is not going to come easy. So yeah, I do believe there is some sort of sacrifice. There is a trade-off. You have a choice with everything in life.
100%. I love that. There's a few of the words in there. I'm even going to examine my own question there. Pain and change. We may have touched on this before, but the 2 arrows, you've heard is it the Buddhist 2 arrows? The first arrow is pain, the second arrow is suffering. And pain is inevitable, but suffering is something that we can choose. We do have an element of choice in that. And that's Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Like, pain is one thing, but maybe what I should have asked is struggle is struggle a prerequisite for change? Because I agree with you, like that struggle is where the growth comes from. That struggle is where the skills and the knowledge and the understanding and the experience and the awareness comes from, is the struggle. But how we respond to the struggle is where maybe the pain or the suffering or the distraction or the reaching for something external to ourselves to manage the uncomfortable feeling of the struggle. I agree with you. I do think a certain level of struggle is required to become a certain type of person. But I've always struggled with the idea that for me to change who I am or to become something I want to be, that there has to be a struggle. That there has to be pain involved. But that's before I kind of understood you could split these two things. Challenge is not pain. How I respond to challenge is pain. And this would be like Gabor Mate says, it's not what happened to you is the trauma, it's how you respond to what happened to you is the trauma. So all these ideas are kind of saying the same thing. You have a level of control over how you respond to the inevitable challenges of life. That's part one. And also, you can decide to put other challenges in your way consciously because you now understand that you're going to grow as a result. So both of those things kind of, do you know what I mean?
I would not choose that again, let me tell you.
You definitely wouldn't choose that. But I would imagine now there's probably parts of your life having gone through what maybe it could have been avoided, but for you it was almost an inevitable level of struggle. It was coming down the track because of the way you had been living your life and the absolute turbocharged level you were living everything at. That almost was inevitable that challenge was coming. But I'd say now you probably look at life looking at certain areas, like you do it already. You're an athlete. Like you've always looked at a certain thing and gone, I don't want to do this training session, but I'll be a better person. I see you jumping in the river up in fucking Wicklow. I'm like, I don't have to jump in this river, but I know I'm going to be a better person for my kids and for my business or whatever. So has it shifted how you look at struggle and challenge? And the pain, the word I used there, pain or suffering, let's put that in that bucket. Do you now approach how the challenge feels and how the struggle feels differently? Is it still pain or is it something else for you?
Yeah, that's so interesting, right? That whole concept you're talking about, pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice, right? And I do agree with that but I think the suffering element, Dan, comes down to each individual because of their expectations. So I think because of the type of person you are, because of the type of personality you have, maybe life experiences. We all live this life through a different lens because of all the experiences that we have. We are unique. Nobody feels the same. Even the same experience might feel different to somebody. But I think we have control over the suffering element of it. Yes, pain is inevitable, but we do have control over the suffering element depending on our expectations. Because the only three things that we can control in this world are our actions, our reactions, and our expectation. And for me, I had expectations of myself that were way beyond the expectations anybody else had of me and way beyond what was feasible. So yes, I was running supercharged. I was achieving all the things. I was top of this, top of that, all of the success in different areas. But I was absolutely miserable last year because I wasn't living in alignment with who I was. And I heard this quote recently, and it was so true. It was like, you're not unhappy because of what anybody else is doing. You're unhappy because you're not in line with who you truly are. And that's what I experienced last year, right? And it wasn't anybody else putting this pressure on me. Like, I know you're similar. You have, and I have, and we're very lucky to have amazing, incredible support systems. So it wasn't like I had to do this thing to get this thing, or this person was putting this pressure on me. I had super high expectations of myself. Now, this was, as I said to you earlier, I became my coping mechanism. These expectations didn't just appear overnight. It was how I was living my life, and it was progressively getting worse and worse year on year because of maybe past experiences. But yeah, I got to a point where I was doing things because I thought it was what I should be doing next, not because it was what I wanted to do. And the quote, the persona can only receive or cannot receive love, it can only receive praise, is so true, because we turn into these versions of ourselves, right? And because the version of ourselves gets so much praise from everybody else, we get obsessed with it. So we push and we push and we keep showing up as that person to get this praise, but we're miserable because it's not love. They're not the same thing. So yes, last year externally, I was so successful. I was getting so much praise, getting so much pat on the back, because that's the thing about, success and all of these things. Society rewards you. Oh, Kellie, yeah, the more followers, the more, job offers, the higher you'll get, and you keep climbing. But it's at the cost of what? And that's a nice circle. At the cost of what? Because everything has a cost. You don't get anything for free in life. And it's like, are you really in control of your life? This is a good question. Are you leading or are you being led? And last year I was being led. I was being led by the expectations that I had put on myself, that I had thought other people wanted to see of me. And yeah, it led me down a really, really bad path in terms of mental health. But genuinely, 2026, and again, it's not this new year, new me thing, I've called 2026 the year of shedding the shit, right? It's letting go of expectations I put on myself, letting go of the opinions of others, letting go of anything I think I need because I don't need much at all. And I said it to you before we press record. I think last year, right, if I was to think of everything going, all of the success, all of the followers, all of the money, all of the fame, last year, if you'd have told me that was gone tomorrow, I would have had a mental breakdown. Today, if you had said it's all gone tomorrow, Kelly, I would not live my life any differently. I said to you earlier, I'd probably end up just getting a part-time job in a local cafe and living my life exactly as I'm living it now. And that's a beautiful thing. Like how many people have that freedom, the freedom to be like, you know what, if everything went, I'd be grand.
This is the part that people hate hearing.
Okay.
Kellie Fennell. And I know we talked about this together before, but the idea, there's a quote I rolled out earlier on, it's easier to renounce your desires easier to achieve your desires than to renounce them. We are inherently driven by our fundamental human needs as humans. Obviously, that's our base, but based off what you said earlier on there as well, expectation and societal norms and modern cultural phenomenon now drives us to attach our fundamental human needs with external measures of validation. So, for example, more money will make you happy. We're not looking for more money, or we're not looking for happiness. We're looking for a sense of connection, security, and love. In most cases, that's what human beings are looking for. Whereas if we allow those external forces to link themselves with our emotional need for all of these human needs, we're outsourcing any sense of control we have there. So we've no control really over what makes us happy because it's outside of ourselves. And because so much of us live in this status-driven world now, where we're all in our individual little pods, and because most of us don't achieve that super high level of material success, we will spend most of our lives thinking that you're bullshitting me, Kellie Fennell, because of course if I had all this money and success, I would be happy. Of course, because not having it is making me miserable. But that's all external to ourselves. At no point in that conversation are we saying, well, hold on, my happiness is being controlled by ABC. Kellie's saying she's gotten ABC and it hasn't made her happy. At no point do we go, so she must be right. All we do as humans is go, well, she's not me. My life is different. I need those things to make me happy. Or at least if I got those things, I could then start thinking about being happy. And why this gets really difficult as a conversation, because there's layers of truth to that, which you acknowledged earlier on as well. Money won't make you happy, but not having money will make you very unhappy. Money doesn't solve all your problems, but it solves all your money problems. So there are areas where material success can help unburden you from some of the burdens that you feel in the modern world. But that's not what happiness is, I don't believe. And you have some interesting theories around happiness as well, which I'm interested in digging into. But yeah, I can see how when you say that, we've talked so much about this, I completely believe you, and I can see it and I can feel a change in you. But for someone else listening to that, it gets very frustrating, because this is quite common. You'll hear people on podcasts who are quite successful who've decided, okay, I'm not going to renounce all of the success I have, but I don't necessarily need it. And the obvious reaction to everybody who doesn't have that success is, well, of course you'd say that because you already have it. The person who has the Ferrari says, oh, the Ferrari doesn't make me happy. And then it's the person, the punto, goes, yeah, but you have it, so it's easy for you to say. So it's this constant back and forth, which is why I find sometimes the message doesn't land. And that's what I'm really interested in. How do we help that message land a little bit more? Because I'm very lucky I can sit in a room with you and chat about it. I can see your life. I can see how things have changed. I can see it in your eyes and your face. But most people won't get that opportunity. So how do you, and I know this is like a new journey at the moment for you as well, but how do you feel like you approach that with people who can't receive that message? Because you did give me a version of this early on. Maybe you'd like to share that again. Like, a lot of people maybe are not ready to hear that.
Yeah, so I think, right, a lot of this comes from, actually it stems from conditioning. So I think most of us are caught in this productivity trap. And what I said to you earlier, and I genuinely believe this, but this is a very, very new concept to me, but I think the realization has allowed me to enter into this calm, balanced, I'm not always feeling the need to go, do. And it's realizing that, yes, money doesn't make you happy, right? And that can be so hard, as you said, for people to hear, because they're like, of course it does. You know, it's the thing that they don't have, so they put their happiness in that. Whereas it'd be much harder to accept that and work towards maybe bettering themselves or whatever. But what are we told to do from the age of 3, 4. We're conditioned to be this way. And what I do with my clients, so to kind of do a roundabout way of answering your question, what I do with my clients and the people I work with to try and get them to the place that I'm at is a lot of unlearning. That's the root of this. It's unlearning, and it's giving yourself permission to accept information and to allow yourself to be happy. So let me kind of try and break that down, maybe, so people can use it as a kind of building block then. In school, right, when you're 4 years of age, you're told to sit down, you're told to shut up. So to go against all your natural instincts, right? And the biggest thing that is wrong with our society is you're told to compete. So comply and compete. You don't come home with, with worse scorecards than everybody else in the class, right? So it's a productivity trap. So many of us base our self-worth on performance, on productivity, because it's what we're told to do. And it just gets worse and worse as you go along. So in school, don't be the worst. Get the best grades. Then when you get the best grades, you get the best degree from the best school. And then when you do that, you go out and you get yourself a job. But that doesn't stop there. When you get into the job, climb that ladder, get the promotion, get to the top. So we've built a culture of growth at all costs. And the sad thing is that it's the cost of our authenticity. It's at the cost of our happiness. And for me last year, it was at the cost of my fucking sanity, you know? So it's this expectation that's been drilled into us from a really early age that you just can't be happy with what's already in front of you and what you have, you know? And yes, the money thing, let me bring the money thing into it. Last year reached the height of success that I've ever had in terms of financial, all of this stuff, right? Yes, I was miserable, Dan. I was miserable. So if money did make you happy, how did that happen to me last year? You know, I got to a place of huge financial success and I was the worst mental health I've ever had in my life. And the reason is because I had placed the expectation on myself that money would make me happy. So when I got there, why the fuck wasn't I happy? And the reason I wasn't happy is because I ventured so far out of alignment with who I truly was, because I was following the narrative of more, do, get, then you'll be happy. So it's this idea of placing our happiness on the other side of achievement, growth, all of these things. And that's what's happening to us as a society. It's growth at all costs. Be the best, get more, be bigger, at the cost of anything. Doesn't matter what it costs you. When you get there, it'll be worth it. And it's not worth it. It is not worth it. I am sitting in a place now, as I said earlier, and I think this is maybe will help listeners believe that if everything went tomorrow, I genuinely wouldn't change the way that I live my life. However, talking about money, I'm not going to say, as you said, you know, I'm not going to say that money doesn't help. It absolutely does help. And what I've realized with money is that it doesn't help, you know, buy bigger things or better things. It can, but that's not what will make you happy. I genuinely believe, and I've done a lot of research and a lot of reading and stuff on this over the last couple of months. I believe that the reason that money can help us is because it allows us to live life on our own terms. So there was this study done by, his name is Angus Campbell. He's a professor of University of Michigan. It was done in the early 80s. I think it was 81. And he done a massive big study, right, where he chatted to so many different people of all different walks of life, different backgrounds, different experiences. And he found that the most powerful common denominator to happiness was one's own ability to live life on their own terms. Everybody that he had as part of that study had different levels of financial success, different levels of social status, different levels of, income. Geography was different. People all over the world. There were so many different people at different levels of career, life, stages of life. And the one thing, the biggest common denominator for those who are happy compared to those who are unhappy was their ability to live life on their own terms. So I believe that the goal isn't money, right? The goal is freedom. but I won't say that money doesn't help with the freedom aspect of it. But it's just your expectation, Dan, of what level is going to make you happy. So I had the expectation of more money will make me happy. But it's wrong, right? For me now, it's the more freedom will make me happy. But I do understand that a certain level of money is needed to get there, but not the level I thought, not the millions, not the millions.
Yeah.
I can live comfortably on X amount of money. I only realise that now. Did it take me to get to this level of financial status to realise that? For me, maybe that's what got me here. But as I said earlier, you know, is it that everybody who gets there is lying when they say, like, that's a big thing. I listened to a podcast recently and it was like, why would everybody who gets to a financial freedom, let's say, lie about it making you happy? Like, what would be the benefit for people to lie? You know, but I do get it. Like, there are certain things probably in my life still that I'm like, if I had this, it would mean I would feel this way. And it's not really, it's not that thing, you know. But I'm glad and I'm very thankful, very grateful that I'm in this position in life where I do realise now that it's not the money per se or the amount of money per se that is making me happy. It's the ability to live life on my own terms. The highest dividends, Morgan Housel says, the highest dividends money can give you is the freedom to live your day as you wish. And we fail to realise that that's not at 100,000. It's not at 200, 500,000, 1 million. We could all live our perfect day on, I don't know. What do they say? The magic number is 75 grand.
That's
once you
in
get
the States now. So adjust for, like, it's probably, I don't know, I'm not even going to try and imagine what that is now in Ireland or in European terms. I'm going to throw some more pieces into the puzzle here, right? Because I agree with everything you're saying, by the way. I think that's a massive consideration for people. I think this idea that an external thing will make us happy, like money's an infinite game. Money never ends. When you're at 100 grand, it's 200 grand. 200 grand, it's a million. A million is 2 million. Like, I know Clara Santos, the Happiness Lab, did an episode on this as well. I may have mentioned it before. And she had a guy on who works with the ultra wealthy, and for every multiple of wealth they went up, there was no increase in happiness, but there was actually a lot of complications as well, because you're managing massive wealth, there's massive problems, etc., etc. So it's all very nuanced with the money conversation, but I completely accept the point that you've made there. The freedom thing is interesting to me, right? Because I meet a lot of people who have financial freedom. A huge amount of those people, it's only a tiny, tiny piece of the puzzle, because they don't know what to do with that freedom. And some people talk about the next step once you've established financial security or freedom, so money is no longer a burden or a worry for you. The next step is like a bigger mission-based game. And for some of the people I've spoken to, I believe it. For some, it's just another version of the same thing. It's another fill the hole with, and they're calling it this. It's another external thing I'm going to achieve. And it's not number-based anymore, but now it's maybe legacy-based, or now it's something else external that they need to achieve. And it's just another step on that endless stairmaster of success. The thing is just constantly moving, and now you've called it a different thing, but it's the same thing. And I also have seen and experienced myself that unless we have some sense of purpose and structure in our lives, we're not going to be happy. So no one is going to be happy with enough money that they don't have to worry about their bills if they have nothing else to do in their lives. So this idea of freedom is one of the ideas, but I bring it back to Viktor Frankl all the time, because our ability to live financially free is removing the ability for other people to control our day. So I don't have to go to work at 9 o'clock and finish at 5, because I don't need the money. And that's the only reason I would go and work 9 to 5 in a job I didn't like, because I need the money. There's no problem working 9 to 5, but if it's something I really don't like doing, which a lot of people say they don't like, it's not their mission, it's not their purpose. Their 9 to 5 serves a purpose, which is to give them money, and the money facilitates the life they want to lead. No problem there. But if you don't want to work that job, you don't enjoy the job, that's a form of confinement. It's a form of control. And you mentioned there, the ability to have freedom is what drives most people. But Viktor Frankl had no freedom. Physically, he was in a concentration camp. He couldn't do anything he wanted to do. And he was able to find that freedom in his own mind. So that leads me to believe that it really doesn't matter. Yes, it's going to be a lot more difficult in a concentration camp than if you were financially free, obviously. However, he was able to do it. Now, I'm not suggesting that any of us could get close to that level of psychological or emotional or spiritual freedom. But the principle I can't ignore the principle. To me, I often nowadays, particularly, like you mentioned earlier on, I have a very, very safe, secure life. I've had extreme levels of support in my life from family and friends. I've been extremely lucky. I'm very grateful for it. And I get moments where I'm sitting in my house looking at my kids going, I am living like a king. I am not financially free or wealthy by any standard, but I live like a king compared to the most of the world. And that's just a perspective thing for me, because some days I walk out of the door stressed out of my mind because I have to do that and I have to reach this and my business is not where I need to be. And oh my God, I'm going to be under financial pressure here. And the only thing that has shifted is my head. So if I look at Viktor Frankl and he was able to shift this perspective in his head, and then look at those moments where I am the king of the world, sitting having my bagel in the morning and a cup of tea, and no one can tell me what to do because I run my own business and I am literally the king of the world here. The only thing that shifts between then and the days that I feel absolutely under the cosh completely is my own head. Nothing objectively changes. Nothing in the business changes. I don't have any more or less money in my bank. I'm driving the same car. Nothing has changed. But something changed in my head that day. So me being able to remember that, it adds more complication to what we've discussed there about the money thing and the financial freedom thing. Yes, I think it's it would definitely help not having to think about money. And if I break it down, why do I want to grow this business? Everybody says it's to be free and be my own boss. It's not what happens, by the way. It's not what happens. But what I actually think I want and what I crave is not to have to think about the money thing. I don't have to think about it. I don't want to play the game. I'm not driven by the money game. I just don't want to have to think about it. Now, that is an extremely privileged position to be in, but that's what I think I want. I don't think it's a number that I want to get to. I don't think it's a level of status I want to. I think I just don't want to have to think about that. But as soon as I don't have to think about that, all of the other shit in my life is going to rear its head, and I'm going to have to start thinking about that stuff. And I think that's where it gets a bit complex. It's easier for me to go, fuck all this shit. I'll go to the next level with the money. I'll just chase the next level, because it just means maybe the answer is actually there, but it definitely means I don't have to think about all this other stuff in my life. So that's where I think it gets a little bit complicated for people, because my experience of that will be completely different to your experience of that. And you said it earlier on, based on our upbringing, our environment, our support levels, at the jobs that we've worked, the people that we know, our families, the level of support we have. That's going to change how we as individuals think about that. So when a piece of advice comes down the pipeline on a podcast or whatever, everyone's just going to experience that differently, which is where I think it just gets really messy and nuanced. How much of that hits home?
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. I think, again, though, it comes back to expectation, and it comes back to, we spoke about it earlier, but this whole thing about certainty and uncertainty. So you're like, if I don't have to look at this side of my life, I'll just throw myself into that side and look at the money thing. And I get that, but it's just, again, another layer of having certainty in your life. And there's a quote somewhere that I heard before, and it's like something along the lines that we would choose misery over uncertainty, because
familiar misery over
unfamiliar uncertainty. Yeah. And again, I think it all comes back to this narrative that society is pushing. It's like you have to be we said it earlier, human beings, not human doings. But so much of our worth is determined by our productivity, by our output. And think about hundreds, thousands of years ago. We just used to get the food when we needed the food, go and search for the food. But all of the rest of the time we're resting and digesting. We're sitting there and we're doing nothing. But we can't do that today because of expectations placed on us by society, because of instant gratification, because of all of the new technology. We're stuck in this trap 22 place where the biggest, the best thing that you can do for yourself is come back to yourself, right? And that might sound a bit airy-fairy, but I believe that's what I've done. It's like in a society that tells you to go, do, be anything other than what you are. The bravest thing that you can do is go against that. Accept who you are and work towards being more authentically you. Because genuinely, Dan, right, me and Mo watched The Keys to Our Life last night, Brendan Courtney's show, where Irish celebrities, and he goes and brings them back through their lifetime, right? We just happened to watch Christy Dignam, the Aslan, the singer in Aslan. We happened to watch his episode, and he was talking about all the struggles in his life and so on. And he's passed away now, but obviously back then he had said that he was rushed into hospital and he had this near-death experience. And he said that he was terrified of dying. And he said to the nurse, please just give me more time, right? And in that moment, he said, none of the money, none of the success, none of the achievements meant anything. He was like, it meant nothing. In that moment where I thought I was about to die, I realised the happiness or peace, acceptance, it was in the things that had been in front of me all along. And I think we've just got so far away from how we, I was going to say supposed to live, but I don't know if that's even the right word, how we're built as human beings with the massive explosion in technology. Evolution, from an evolutionary point of view, our brains haven't been able to keep up. We've exploded that way. And we're expected to, adjust. And that's why mental health is, it just seems to be getting worse and worse, because we as human beings need these things to make us happy, right? And the things are very, very simple, but we're sold the story that actually this is what we need. And it's so far from who we are as human beings. So no wonder we feel fucking miserable. There's a quote, right? And I came upon it recently and I absolutely love it. It's something along the lines of, our value is not in the sheer number of goals achieved, but our ability to be present in achieving them. And I think that's what's allowed me to have this level of peace or change the way I'm living in whatever that looks like. But I'm no longer running towards something. I'm no longer also running away from something, which I was doing a lot of, trying to get away from past traumas that I had in my life. I'm not running towards something. I'm not running away from something. I'm allowing myself to be where I am. And that's one thing, mantras and stuff like that, I don't use them or anything, but funny, one thing stuck in my mind this year, and it was, be where you are, create, not consume. And that's what I'm trying to live my life by now. And again, people might look at me and say, well, it's easy for you to say you can because X, Y, and Z. And by the way, I don't want to come across that I'm like this person who doesn't have to work or has all this. Absolutely not. Right. I've just reached a level of financial success that I hadn't been at before, but I still have to work and so on. But yeah, so people can look at me and say it's easy for you to say. But I do a lot of talks now, Dan, right? I've gone away from the whole fitness talks and, how to scale your business, which I was kind of getting into a lot last year. I was coaching coaches. And I'm giving this talk recently. I actually gave it, I'm going to start crying thinking about this, but I actually gave it just gone on Saturday. And it's a talk. It's called How Do You Want to Live Your Life? Because I believe that for most people, your values are going to be love, meaning, connection, authenticity. And that's actually what's going to make you happy, living a life aligned with who you truly are. But in society, I think we're chasing values that are not set by us. Fame, success, comparison, growth, right? And in the talk, I get people to examine the values that they want to live by and the values that they are currently living by. And it's just looking back on your actions over the past week. You tell me that connection is the biggest thing in your life. Give me 3 examples in the last week that show this. A lot of people aren't living their values and they're wondering why they're miserable, right? So I do a lot of work in this talk. And basically at the end of the talk, I get people to visualize waking up one morning in their 95-year-old body, right? And I get them to close their eyes and I get them to really do this visualization and, where are you sitting? Who are you surrounded by? All of these things. And a question after going deep into it, I asked them is, if you were to live your life exactly as you are living your life today, exactly this day on repeat, would you wake up in your 95 self happy, or would you regret how you lived your life? And like, it's so emotional. I'm even getting emotional thinking about it because like so many people do be roaring, crying at this talk, right? But it's just really to try and strip things back to the bare bones of what life is about, what will make us happy. And realizing that for most people, we're chasing the wrong things. Like the top 5 regrets of the dying. Dan, Bronnie Ware, right? She's an Australian woman who's written a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Now, I always reference back to this, right? Because she worked as a palliative care nurse for years. She had conversations with people who were staring death in the face, right? And after years and years of these conversations and asking people, what are your biggest regrets? She accumulated the top 5 regrets of the dying, right? Now, people can say, well, that's not fact, Kelly, because it's only opinion. But I take it as fact because what the fuck have they left to lose? Who have they left to impress? What gain do they have by lying about their regrets? So the top 5 regrets, if I can remember them, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had lived a life I wanted to live and not a life that others expected me to live. I wish I had allowed myself to be happier. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings, which is like authenticity thing I'm on about. And I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. None of them are talking about they wish they got more money to get more things. We're working jobs we hate, to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't like. And if people realise that, then maybe they would realise that they don't need all of the money, all of the success. It's always been in front of you. And at the end of that talk, I do the 6 months left to live question. And this is why Saturday was very emotional for me, because at the end of the talk, I ask, again, people closing their eyes, just being very kind of trying to block out all the external shit going on. And I asked them a series of questions like, if you were told tomorrow you had 6 months left to live, how would you live? Who would you spend your time with? You know, where would you go? What would you do that you keep postponing? What would really matter, right? And at the end of the talk, people were coming up and chatting to me and, you know, very emotional. And this woman came up to me and she said, her name's Lisa. And she said, Kelly, you've helped me more than you can know, right? And I was just like, oh, thanks so much. And she said, I went in for a routine procedure not so long ago in my stomach. And I woke up and they told me that I had stage 4 cancer in my pancreas and my liver and I have 6 months left to live. And she was like, you're so right. Like, and she's like, and I'm so happy that you've gained this wisdom rather than getting to the end. And I genuinely believe that so many people will be on their deathbed and they will be like, fuck, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I hadn't postponed my happiness until the next thing. But yeah, that's just a level of wisdom that I think only going through the absolute depths, really staring life and, you know, in holding a mirror up to yourself, maybe can you realise? Because again, like the thing about the kids, if you don't have kids, you'll never understand. If you don't go through the thing, you can't understand. But you made an important point earlier before we press record, and you're like, yes, but can we not help people get to this level of maybe consciousness is the proper word, awareness is better maybe, without having gone through the shit. And I just believe that if you allow yourself to trust deep, because I believe people are genuinely good, majority of people. I just think there's very minority of people who are actually bad at the core. So why would they be lying to you, you know? And yeah, I take inspiration from people who are maybe a little bit further ahead than me and allow myself now to believe what they say and not always think they have a hidden agenda because they've got to that level, you know? Mm. So maybe that's a long-winded way of saying I'm not lying to you.
I think thanks for sharing that. I think it's important because what you're doing at the moment, it's beautiful. Like, and this is different because we were laughing this morning. The last time I saw you in person was April last year. So all of this has happened. We've been back and forth on WhatsApp, whatever, but all of this has happened in that meantime. And what you're doing now is just expressing that. And this is why I said, like, I'm going to give Brian a shout out in the podcast now. I hate doing it because he's always in the second podcast. But you and Brian are going to have a great conversation because we spoke on the last episode of the podcast, if you've listened to that one, about truth, right? And what you're doing now is just expressing your truth. And most people won't be able to acknowledge or accept that. But when you did your event the other day, what you're helping people to do for a period of time is really feel an embodied version of their truth. And the truth that you help them feel is that they're going to die.
Memento mori.
Everyone knows this. Almost none of us feel this. We're very short-sighted as humans, in my experience, in my opinion, that we know this logically, but the weight of that is too much for us to hold for many of us, because we're very fragile emotionally because of everything that you spoke about. Everything is 100% correct. Our conditioning, our behavior, our perceptions, societal expectations. All of those are the contributing factors. And what ends up with us is we're very emotionally fragile. And the idea that we're going to die and it's going to end is a truth that we cannot handle. You can't handle the truth. Good old Jack Nicholson. That's true. We can't handle the truth a lot of the time. So what we do is we live in a version of our lives that is not the truth. It's a denial of the truth. The truth, like a real objective truth, is going to end. And when you get people to think about their death or their deathbed, you help them in a safe space. This is why it's important in those environments that they feel safe. But you help them to embody that truth for a moment or two. Because when most people leave these events and stop listening to these podcasts, they go back into the world. And the world is hitting them again with all of the input and all of the training and all of the trauma and all of the behavior gets triggered again. And we put up the walls again. And it's very hard for most of us to embody that truth on a day-to-day basis. And I believe, and Brian would believe, and you're now expressing this feeling that if I'm able to live in this embodied truth more, that is what a full life is. So that's why I've strayed away from happiness. Happiness is a state. And I can be happy some days, and on the same days I can be sad. Happy and sad on the same day. But being present and feeling how you feel now, I can see it in you when you're speaking, like you're expressing what's inside you, as opposed to saying something on a microphone that sounds fucking great on an Instagram clip, which you, by your own, and I do it all the time, that's how you lived your life. Because that would achieve a goal and that would drive you forward and that would get people to listen and it would have a level of change. It would impact a level of change. So you weren't doing it to hoodwink people. You could help people to a certain level. But what you're doing now is you're expressing a truth. And what people experience when they think about death, really think about death, or do, like Brian got me to do that years ago, to do your eulogy exercise. You write your own eulogy. What would people say about when you die? And there's two things that happen then. You've already explained that your version of this is, one, you get people to think about, if I keep living my life the exact way I'm living it now, what are people going to say about me when I'm dead? Those people closest to me, what are they going to stand up and say? Dan was this type of person. He did this type of thing because that's how I've lived my life. And if I continue, that's how my life will end. So that's part one. But part two, you realize someone's going to be saying a eulogy. That's inevitable. I'm not going to be here. Yeah. And actually being able to embody that is extremely difficult initially. But if you can do even small bits of it, and this is why I think all of the practices like meditation or even just being with yourself, we have to practice it, because everything else on this planet is forcing us out of being. It's forcing us to doing. It's the status game. It's everything we spoke about, the status game, the money, the achievements, the goal, the persona. Everything in the world forces that upon us. So it's really hard not to do, because we think that's where we're going to find this answer. And you will achieve, this is why the money thing is so funny, you will achieve states of happiness. Money can make you happy for 5 minutes here, there. Like, let's use the Ferrari thing. I spoke to a guy very recently, extremely successful guy, driving his Ferrari. He's like, I'm happy driving my Ferrari for 5 minutes. And it's not that I hate the Ferrari, then the Ferrari's meaningless. It makes me happy every now and again. But that's just an external state.
That's a state.
It's a state.
Yeah.
And the state comes and goes. So I can be happy and sad now. Viktor Frankl could be happy and sad in the concentration camp. The billionaire could be happy and sad in a day. But what are we actually trying to achieve? And my belief is alignment, presence,
authenticity,
content, authentic, all of these absolute fucking buzzwords that people don't like to hear. But that when you start to, as you're doing now, and I've gotten taste of this myself, when you start to experience real truth and accept real truth, which for people like you, hard charging, type A personality, control the fucking world, and you've done an amazing job, the hardest thing you can do, in my opinion, is let go and accept. But when you do, like you said to me, you could work tomorrow in a coffee shop. You could work as a captain of a ship. You could be a millionaire. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, because you're being. So you can do any of those things because you're being. The trap that we fall into is we're not being in anything. Therefore, the doing becomes the whole thing. It's getting very abstract now, all the ings, but you know what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah.
So that's where the happiness thing for me is that is a state. I'm now viewing that as a state. And every day I can be happy and every day I can be sad. And that is fine. I can be happy and sad. That does not affect me being able to be in the moment. And that's why when I get those moments where I'm a king in my castle at home, I think about the deathbed, I think about the five regrets, and I'm like, I have all of it right now. My only job for the rest of my life is to experience and be in as much of that as I possibly can and go deeper and deeper and deeper into the being, because I have everything else. And if I'm to believe the people who are further along that path than me, all the success stuff comes. Like just the security comes, everything comes, because you just have a trust and people are drawn to you. And you'll find now, and you're probably finding it already, more people are being drawn to that energy that you're giving off, because they can sense, oh my, there's something that maybe they don't know what it is, but there's something about Kellie now that's drawing me even deeper, because she was deadly before, but now there's like a layer to this that's just drawing me in, because we as humans, I think, are attracted to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were saying that there, I just kept thinking, when you do this acceptance thing and you're present or whatever the thing is that I'm doing, you actually end up helping people so much more because of what you just mentioned there. Like, connection is a funny thing because there's so many different levels of connection. A lot of us function on the surface level of connection, the absolute bullshit that's never going to do anything right. But when you are, and I don't think either that we can be 100% our authentic selves. We have to perform in a certain way to survive. You know, the whole Gabor Mate, it's like the battle between connection and authenticity, you know, and babies need to connect and all of these different things. So it's not like, you know, tomorrow wake up and you just do whatever you want to do. It's not like that. But because I am accepting myself now for the first time in years, so to kind of give a backstory here, Jan, you know all this, but when I was 19, my partner then took his own life, right? And I became a coping mechanism. I didn't feel good enough. I only learned this on fucking hindsight and therapy, years and years of therapy, but my internal monologue subconsciously was, you're not enough to keep him here. So obviously you're not worthy, all of these different things, right? So what I did then was I was chasing external validation in the hopes of getting it. I might then accept myself. So for so many years, I was, you know, all of these amazing things, the captain of the rugby team, the MMA fighter, the teacher who was, you know, getting all these praise from these students, the Ironman, you know, competing in Ironman worldwide, like crazy things. But all of it, you know, was just like, please somebody tell me that I'm good enough. That's all this was. And I turned into my coping mechanism, which was approval, you know, pushing, go. And yeah, I do have a type A personality, but that I believe only came because of that. I mentioned earlier I got tested for ADHD because I would present very like that. But the psychotherapist who did the test said you don't have ADHD because all of these traits because they go through your whole childhood. All of these traits only came about when you were 19. He said what you have is actually post-traumatic stress. I never dealt with what happened. I just ran from what happened. Now, in hindsight, as we said, all of those things and that persona that I took on because of that got me to this point. Like, if it wasn't so absolutely mental in terms of success, achievement, be the best, get the approval, would I have gotten to this level of success in my career? Maybe not, probably not. You know, it got me to this point. But full fucking circle here. You don't get anything for free in life. The way I lived my life for that amount of time, I paid the price last year. So basically what happened to me last year, I've never spoke about this in a podcast because it only is so fucking recent, but I pushed myself to the point of burnout last year. I put all of these expectations on myself. Nobody put them on me, but I thought because I'd reached this level of success I had to go to the next level, and this was obviously the next step. And I took on all of these obligations, and I released my own app, and I was speaking at events worldwide, and I was doing all of these things, but I was so far out of alignment with who I truly was. And I kept saying to myself last year, Dan, I kept saying in June, July, why am I so unhappy now? But I was so happy at the start of the year. And on reflection, it was because my life was a lot more simple, and I was doing like yes, I may have had all the followers, but my day-to-day life was so simple. I was chatting with my clients. I was bringing them value. I could see that I was bringing them value. So I felt like I was doing good, I had a small team, and then it just exploded, and I had this app and I had this whatever, but I was managing a team. I was no longer in the weeds with the clients doing the figuring out and why you're feeling this way and getting you to A to B or whatever. So that's why I was miserable. Along with it was like double. It was like a double whammy. All of this expectation shit going on that I had placed among myself, and I was just doing. I was not present in any area of my life. I was like surviving, firefighting, on top of actually facing what had happened when I was 19, because I ran for so long. I was asked, and I do believe that everything happens for a reason, right? But it wasn't easy. And in hindsight, yes, it got me to this point, and I'm grateful, but it was a fucking horrendous year. I was asked to go on a chat with Rosanna Ruane, which is Saoirse, the little girl who passed away. She was on the Late Late Show. Her mother does these evenings with Rosanna, and she asked me to go on it, and I was just like, yeah, absolutely, and talk about Mark and talk about your experience and your struggle and the advice. And I was like, yeah. And in that moment, I hung up the phone and I was like, I'm going on to this show to talk to people about how I dealt with grief. And I haven't even dealt with it. I haven't spoken his name in 18 years. I hadn't dealt with. So I was like, in that moment, I'll never forget, those moments where I can visualize where I was standing. I'm standing outside my mom's salon. It's a sunny day. And I said to myself in that moment, I am going to face that this year, and this is going to be the catalyst for change. But Dan, you don't know what it's going to be like until you face it. Here's me with my little bucket list. I'm going to face the grief. Brilliant. Get on to the next level. Do that on Tuesday. Yeah. Then I can give the advice on the Saturday to all the people about how you get over grief. And little did I fucking know. I went through the depths. I got to a point where, and I said it to you at the start of this podcast, and I truly believe as well, this is why I connect with clients so well, and they'll tell you themselves. I show up, one of my biggest values in my life is integrity. I am the same person here in this room, Dan, as I am online, as I am as someone I pass in the street, as I am with my kids. Integrity is a huge value of mine. I no longer want to change myself to fit a certain room, to fit a certain narrative. So I'm very, very vulnerable with clients. And it's like, you're going through this experience and here's how I got through it. It's not like, oh, this is what you should do from a place of hierarchy. That's not what my coaching is about. I am in the trenches with them, just sharing wisdom that I've gained. And I've gained a lot of wisdom last year by going through the shit. So I will say this on the podcast. Last year, there were certain days in my life where I turned to my wife, Mo, and I just said, I can't go another day feeling like this. And it's a really weird thing to explain. And again, can we even explain to someone who's never been through it? No, probably not. I had everything, but I was feeling like this. And then you're like, Kelly, you have the kids, you have the wife, you have the fame or whatever social thing. Like, why are you feeling like this? And I am a very logical person. Like maths, science, I studied that, and I really am this very logical person, right? At a detriment to me as well. But I was looking for the answers. I wanted the A plus the B to get me to the C. But you can't do that. You can't do that with mental health, So yeah, last year was a massive learning curve for me, but maybe bringing it back to the question that you're asking me was, how I do my job, how I spread my message is from a place of experience and a place of vulnerability. So, everybody listening to this podcast, they have a choice. They have a choice to take the information and maybe apply some of it in their life, or they have a choice to say, she's talking shy. And again, it's not going to affect my life. But how I help people in my job, and it's only this is the question you were asking me, or the point you were putting across before I went off my tangent, was I am showing up in my life a lot more as me. I am embodying, I suppose, who I am a lot more. And I'm connecting with and helping clients a lot more because of it. Yes, last year I helped hundreds of women lose weight. And I also did help them with mindset, the testimonials on my page. And even I saw yesterday, one of my clients was on Brian Keane's podcast yesterday saying that I helped her change her life, right? I did that because I was sharing information, sharing knowledge, right? And you can do that. You can help people get from A to B. But I feel like now it's different. I feel like now I am embodying who I am. And I also spoke to you just before we press record about Eckhart Tolle. I did read his books before. They never landed with me because I was like, how can this man just sit on the bench and then, because he's just embodying himself, his whole life change? It's like, it doesn't make sense to me. I need this logic behind it. But when you start to just, and maybe it comes back to the whole present thing, when you start to accept, who you are, try and be a bit more present in your own life, there's this authenticity, there's this energy, there's this vibration that oozes out of you that other people notice, I stopped posting on social media last year because I would rather not post than show up as a false version of myself. So I wasn't engaging with a lot of people because I wasn't in the headspace to do it. But just in this last month, maybe 2 months actually, the month of December was the first month of last year, apart from January, that I actually felt good. So December 2025 and now, so we're actually in February, but January of 2026, the level of connection that I've had with clients, with other people, has just been off the charts. And I suppose my fulfillment, but also my success off the back of that has just skyrocketed as well. Because I'm now being asked to do these events. I have an event at the end of this month and I am in a room and I am impacting those people on such a deep level by doing this talk. But what have I done? I haven't maximised the KPIs or whatever the fuck. I don't even know what that means. There's a key performance. I haven't put the systems in place. No, I've just let go, Dan. And I've just allowed myself to be myself and not this version of myself that I thought everybody else wanted. What are we doing? We're moulding ourselves, we're fitting ourselves, we're bending ourselves to try and be the person that we think other people want us to be. And that's what's happening online, with people. We log on and we see just carbon copies of people. They are preempting what you want to see, showing up and doing that, but it's not landing because there is not 1 ounce of authenticity about it. So there you go. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Kelly. You're using some phrases and words that are, I think that you're hitting right to the core of it here. And like everyone's experience this will be different. And I think like the conversation that we're having is it's not a novel conversation. It's not a new conversation. It's a new experience and embodiment for you. I've shared with you. I'm going through not the same trajectory and rapid, massive experience of it, but I've been feeling this shift over like a year, 2 years with me, and it's a slow plod with me, and I'm slowly putting pieces together. And you walked into the room, kicked the puzzle on the floor, put it all together. You're like, fuck this! I'm going to do it all right now. But it's just the different experiences. But what's a common theme that I see with everybody is these truths will present themselves every day of your life. The truth. Over and over and over again. I.e., the 5 things you're going to regret when you die. You are going to die. What's actually important is connection. What's actually important is love and compassion. There'll be a million opportunities in a day to see these things. And what will shift, what shifted in Eckhart Tolle, what shifted in Viktor Frankl, what has shifted in you now is the realization that these are truths that can't be ignored. And you're accepting them. And that's what acceptance, I feel, means now. It doesn't mean saying, I accept the thing. And you use the word embodiment, acknowledgement. Use all these different words to say what you're experiencing right now, which is the truth has been there forever. It's always there. The Buddhists would say it's the golden nugget. It's always there. And our mission, if you want to call it that, or our experience here, is to shed all of the things that are distracting us from what's right in front of us, which is ourselves, the truth, the love, the connection, all these different words that we have. I don't think we have actual language to describe what that state or feeling is, but we say happiness and we say love, and we say peace and we say presence and we say contentment. They all represent, I think, the same thing to us. It's that abstract idea that we feel like we want, but we're not quite there yet. It's what fuels the I'm not enough thing, because a lot of us struggle with that. That's a massive thing for me. I'm not enough. Therefore, if I do these things, I'll be more enough. But you're never enough, because there's always more enough you could be. It's like, it's this endless spiral. But the truth is always there, is what I'm understanding. And you're now acknowledging so much more of it. And you're not done, by the way. Best of luck for the next 50 years of your life, because there's more of this. But you're sitting deeper into the truth. You're closer to the truth. Therefore, you're experiencing more of the truth in your day to day, and you're shedding the things that you now know are not that important anymore. Hence, you could work in a cafe. That's what part of that is. And other people sense that, because we want that, and we're like, oh, where is it? Oh, she has it. And some people want to extract it from you, like, tell me the secret, Kelly. Tell me the hack. Give me the book. Give me the. And that's fine. That's one level of it. That's okay. And that can help some people. But then other people learn from just seeing how you live your life. And then other people will need to speak to you and be in your presence. And other people will come to one of your events and have this moment of embodied truth where they see themselves dying and will change their lives. And other people, like that lady who got that diagnosis, will thank you, because she'll realize oh my God, you get it. You've just experienced in your way what I'm experiencing now in my way, but I can find meaning here. Whereas before it was the most horrible thing. Now I can fill my life with me. There's so much of it, but it's always there. For all of us, it's always right there. And that's why I keep going. And people be sick of me saying this Viktor Frankl thing now, but if that man in that space can do it, me in my beautiful privileged life, surely I can find a way to do it. But also I need to remove judgment from myself, and so do you. Just because you have a nice life and money and a supportive family doesn't mean you're not going to feel shit. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. So it's a bit of self-compassion. But it's also a willingness to go out and do things too, because you can't just, like, I know it's accept it and it will happen, but it's accept it and live your life and it will happen. It's not just sit there and go, okay, accept it all now, my life's going to be amazing. You still have to go and live your life, but every action you take from that point on has a different intention behind it. And therefore you're not being driven by this fear and this insecurity and this lack. You're now just living your life in a completely different way. You're still doing things. You're still going to work. And I think this is a really important point to finish the idea I'm trying to work with here. Even if you're doing a job you don't like, or you're in a situation that's not ideal, or it's not something that you feel is making you happy or filling your cup, shifting how you do that thing can fundamentally change your experience of it. So the thing itself doesn't necessarily need to change. Now, in some cases it does. But if you can't change that, you can still free yourself from the feelings of struggle and pain and challenge a lot of the time by the intention you bring into that, or by how you do that, or by accepting the way you are going to live your life and embodying that in a different way. And nothing externally has to change, even though it can, but it doesn't have to, which gives you so much more freedom, so much more peace in your mind to live.
And what you just said there brings it back to the first thing that you were saying about struggle. The struggle is optional. And you mentioned it there about people, doing jobs they hate. And yes, your goal could be to work towards a job that you don't hate, and then someone else's goal is something different. It's mad that we try and compare our situations to anyone else when the lens in which we see the world is completely different due to our current situation and also our past experiences. But what was I saying? Struggle. So
struggle. Yeah.
But so the struggle is optional. The pain isn't. As I was saying, there's always a cost for things in life, but realizing that and this is part of the acceptance thing, when I get chatting to people and they're like, but my circumstance is this and I don't like this and my job and whatever. And when you just said that there, it just brought it back to me. It was like, you don't have to like your job, but if you change the way you view that and say, okay, I'm in. So instead of, let's say, right, someone goes to work for 8 hours a day. And instead of the 8 hours of that day being like, this is fucking shit, I hate my job, I hate my life, right? Just flipping the script and saying, I have to be there for the 8 hours, so I'm just going to do the thing. And then when I get out of work, the money that I get from this job allows me to do X, Y, or Z. Do you know what I mean? So the struggle part of it It is, and it's hard to take, isn't it? It is hard to take, but the struggle part of it, for the most part, is optional. The pain part isn't, but we all have to, nothing in life is free. But it's just changing the way that you're speaking to yourself, which is what you were saying there. And one thing as well, just to kind of finish up on the point that you were making, you said there, it's been there all along, right? And those couple of words have actually come up a few times in this conversation. And in the episode of what's his name, Christy Dignam, that I was watching yesterday, it's always been there, right? This, as you said, I don't really like the word happiness either, because happiness is fleeting. It's only when, we only experience happiness when we have no desires, and that, like, we're always going to have desires, but the thing that we've been searching for has been there all along, right? And our job is to try and shed the shit. And it's to try and remove all of those layers that have been placed above the thing that has been there all along, due to experiences, due to trauma, due to labels. From the minute we're born, Dan, labels are placed upon us. You're this person who lives in this area, who has this family background, who goes to this school, who's going to get this education, who's going to get this job. You have so many labels placed upon you. Labels create expectations. So if you can try and peel back all of the bullshit, all of the labels, all of the expectations, work through the traumas, all of those things, and try and get back to this person that you've been all along. And I genuinely believe after the last year, that a huge realization for me, and this is something that I'm living my life by now, right? It's that having left and going through all of the shit just to realize that you're right back where you started is not the same as having never left. And that also touches base on struggles, pain. It's part of the process. It's how we learn. It's how we grow. Again, something that I love to do is simplify things to make it easy to understand, especially with my clients when we're talking about nutrition, training, mindset. When a child, like, how do they grow? How do they learn? It's all through pain, fall down, get back up again, fall down again. When a child falls the first time, they're not going to lie on the ground and say, well, I've given it a go, I'm going to give up now. Me walking today is a result of failing 1,000 times. Pain is part of the process. But what do so many people do now to avoid it? And listen, I get it, because you can go to the depths. It's this numbing. I don't want to feel the pain. But it's only through the pain can you get to the other side.
It's so interesting. I love the kids' conversation because they're such good teachers. It's a bit fucking cliche thing to say. Kids are versions of us with less shit and mud, right? I look at my boys, one of them in particular, when he falls, the first thing he does is look at our reaction. And he'll base his response off our reaction. So if we go, oh my God, that was a terrible thing, he'll burst out crying.
Yeah.
But if we're just like, good man, and don't give him any, like, because obviously we don't want to, like, just toughen up and be fucking, I want to see what his natural response to this thing is. But the first thing he does is wait for our reaction. Now, obviously, if he absolutely smashes himself, he's going to have physical pain and he'll cry. But most of the time when he falls and bumps his head, he'll look. And depending on how we react, he'll react. So we're conditioning him. Now, that's the really obvious one. There's a million other ways I'm conditioning that child. I don't even know based on how I'm living my life. But this lends itself to what you're saying there. He is going to experience the world based off how we've conditioned him to experience the world. And we have his best interest at heart. So when he goes out into the world at large, he's going to be shaped by so many factors that I don't have control over. And a lot of those are, and maybe I'll use the word negative. They wouldn't be optimal for self-expression, because there is that line that you mentioned earlier on between integration in society and culture. Yeah. We can't go around doing whatever, I am full expression. Yeah. Those people are so fucking annoying. They don't integrate well into society.
Well, you have to get a job as well. You have to pay the bills.
You have to pay the bills. You have to pay the bills. So there is an acknowledgement, I feel, which is healthy for society, where, okay, I will express myself, but I will also respect other people's boundaries. And that's healthy, because we are communal animals and we do well together. Whereas the way we've shifted now, and another cliche thing to say, but the way our society is built now, it's a lot less self-expression than I believe it should be, and a lot more conformist than it should be. Not to say that everyone should quit their job and start be a business. I say this a lot. I don't believe that anymore. But your comfort in expressing yourself, your comfort in living an embodied, truthful life, like we talked about you are now, it's very difficult to do that in a lot of environments now. Extremely difficult, because it's not encouraged, because it doesn't suit the model, because it's different and it's outside, you're colouring outside the lines a little bit, and that just doesn't suit this nice clean cut idea we have of our society. Certain elements of society very helpful. We've made mad progressions. It's crazy. We're sitting here talking on mics with phones and stuff. Crazy. I'm very grateful to live in the age we do. But as you mentioned earlier on, our psychology and our emotional health and our mental health is suffering as a result of this, because we don't have this ability to connect and express and embody our truth, the truth. And a lot of that is because when my kid falls, my reaction is going to impact his reaction. So I am shaping him into something. And one story that always stuck with me is Pat Divilly shared with me, and I know he's told the story a lot, but he talked about not being able to, there's a point came in his life when he couldn't sing and dance anymore. Not because somebody tried to shame him, but that's not what boys do. That's not what men do. And he remembers this as an adult, and he's doing, obviously this man is doing more work than most of us on understanding his emotions and unlocking himself. But I remember him saying that to me. It's like, Jesus Christ, we have to be so aware of how we impact other people. But also, I haven't a fucking clue about myself. And now I'm trying to curate this environment where my son, like, what am I actually supposed to do here? Create this environment where he's full expression, or give him some boundaries and rules, or is it a mix in between? So it's extremely difficult and challenging. But as an observation, it's worth noting the impact that I have on him and who he's going to be when he grows up is massive. So if we just look at ourselves, I am a version of that boy. So every experience I had as a child shaped who I am now. If I can understand some of that, I can start to let go of a little bit of it. But the challenge is, I'll probably need help. I'll need Kellie to share her story and be my friend. I'll need Brian to help me understand what truth is. Sometimes I'll need a therapist to hold space for me and let me work that out. And for a lot of us, we don't have access to that anymore, whether it's therapy or friends or real connected relationships, because we live as, you so beautifully put it on, the persona. We live as the persona. So even if somebody wanted to connect with us, they can't.
Yeah, that inability to allow your self-expression. And when you were saying that there, I was just thinking about it. And I was thinking that years ago, right, our uniqueness was celebrated. So years ago, if you had ADHD, it's an amazing thing, because it means you were hyper-focused on this one thing. And so years ago, we all had a role, right? And we were praised for that role. And what's happened now is it's done a 180. So this condition has come in, and you're told to be this type of person, to do this thing, to fit the mold, and that's the way life should be, and that's what will make you happy. And what it's done is it's actually beating the uniqueness out of us. And that's what school does. Like, what's the quote? If you
can I just, before you go on, because that's a great point. I think it's beating the uniqueness deeper down into us. So it's not beating us
out of us, in.
You can't get it out. It's fucking in there, but that's why we struggle so much, because it's not gone.
Yeah.
It's there, we know it's there, but we can't
But it's not allowing, this is what I was coming back to, it's not allowing the actual true self-expression.
Exactly, yeah.
That's the problem here. It's follow the fucking rules and don't you dare express the person you truly are. Like, I am a weirdo, like, in reality. Like, I struggled with friends and stuff growing up because I'm so different to the fucking thing. Like, I like going out with a bow and arrow or a tomahawk up the mountains, you know. I love reading. I love all of these things that, Jesus Christ, God forbid you allow yourself to do now. And I hadn't done them. Like, my therapist was like, Kellie, what do you do for fun? And I couldn't remember last year, because I didn't. How dare allow myself to have a bit of fun when I could be, Dan? I could be doing something that's productive. The productivity trap, you know. The past couple of months, I started this is. We're going to say weirdo, but there you go. Unique. This is what makes me unique.
Unique and special.
Unique and special.
Unique and special.
I started building Lego again. I started building in the garden again, building saunas and all of the things that I love to do. I got the bow and arrow out with the fucking target. I started doing all these things again, and bringing it back to exactly what you said. Kids are our best teachers. What do? They have fun. They play. They express themselves. When was the last time you had fun? When was the last time you had fun? Because it's not the thing to do now. Why have fun when you could be scaling the business?
Do you know when kids have fun? when do kids, when kids have fun? When they feel safe. This is a Peterson thing as well. I remember going to see him in the O2. Actually, it was Brian again. Brian was sitting beside me. And when he said this, it's something he said a lot. It's not a unique concept, but he talked about the walled garden. And as a parent, if you can create this idea of a walled garden, not a physical garden now, but this idea of a safe space for your children, they will play. And children who don't play are children who don't have psychological safety. They haven't got their needs met. And we are just versions of that. And based off what we said earlier on, we can't play because we don't have psychological safety. And we think it's more money. We do have an inkling. We're not stupid. Humans are intelligent. And also, I agree with you, by the way, earlier on. I think most people are good most of the time. And most people want the best most of the time. But we don't feel that level of psychological safety. It's not safe anymore because of the judgment, because of the expectation. That removes any sense of psychological safety, because all of these people have these things and they're happy. So that must be where happiness is. So if I keep going, I'll be happy. Also, if I stop and these dark things comes up, that doesn't make me feel safe either. So we crave safety. We move away from the pain. We talked about this before on your podcast. Why do people have these bad habits? It's not because they're bad people or they're lazy or they're stupid. Absolutely not. They're moving away from pain, like I do and like you do. We move away from pain. The difference that you're expressing now is a lot of that pain became so overwhelming and present through your burnout, you couldn't suppress it anymore. You had to acknowledge it. Even if you didn't deal with it or understand it, you had to acknowledge it, which you have obviously done, because you couldn't sit here and talk like this if you hadn't acknowledged your pain. I'm not saying you fixed anything. I'm saying you've acknowledged that darkness. And you never said Mark's name to me before.
Never.
And you said it to me when you came in today, and I was like, that's different.
That's change.
It's the change. You couldn't do that if you hadn't and just acknowledged the darkness and the pain. Yeah. But that's not safe, because most of us don't have a safe space to explore that. We just don't have, when the dark thoughts come up, it's not safe for us to do that in work. We'll be judged. We'll lose our job. We can't do it with most of our friends because they're also, they don't know how to respond. You can't do it there because you'd be ostracized and they think you're a weirdo. So we never feel like we're safe to explore it. No wonder we can't play. My kids do not play unless they feel safe. We always know if they're not, well, I don't, Jill does. She tells me, if the child isn't playing, there's something going on. They don't feel safe. And we are children. And we deal with all of these negative thoughts all of the time and do not have, for most of us, now me and you are extremely lucky. We've already said that we can do this. This is a form of, you're safe to express this here. I'm safe to express this. But how could we play if we don't feel safe? It's literally impossible. So again, I think people hear like we should play more and stuff, and people try and like, okay, what I'm going to do is, and it becomes another health hack optimization. I'm going to go for a walk every Monday with my friend, and that's going to be great. And I'm going to meet Mary for coffee on Wednesday. And you're sitting there with Mary saying, I am here because this is good for me. As opposed to, I'm just playing, I'm just exploring, I'm just being, I'm just enjoying, I'm just being present. You could do the same thing. You could go meet Mary for coffee, and the Kellie that shows up now is going to be different to the Kellie that showed up last year for coffee. They're going to be two different Kellies. The thing hasn't changed. You're still there. But what you feel now is, I don't care. I feel safe to express myself in this space. And Mary's going to respond differently to you, probably in a positive way, because as we said, I think most people are good most of the time. But we have this idea that it's not safe to express because we've been conditioned. It's not safe to express. You have to do these things. And if anything colors outside those lines, which is our expression, that's not safe. So don't do it. So there's no way we can actually play.
But doesn't it all actually just boil down to managing expectation as well? Because you just said there that these people over there are all happy, they're doing this thing, so I have to do that thing as well. So I believe that if we have and keep having these vulnerable conversations, people start to get these glimpses of, just because someone portrays this life online or says that they're happy doesn't actually mean that they're happy. So I have realized, a huge realization of mine is that, happiness or contentment or, just as peace, all these words that we're trying to use to explain this feeling that we can't explain.
It's
being equals when expectations meet reality, right? And for so many people, their expectations that they've placed upon themselves are unrealistic, so they never get that being or that peace. But their expectations are driven by other people. So if we just strip it back strip it back and realize like everything that we feel comes from within, and everything that anyone projects onto you. So when people are, I've realized, right, and it's taken me a while, and it's not nice, obviously, when you get negativity, and I'm lucky I don't get a lot of it. But I've come to a point of realization that any negativity projected by anybody else is a projection of what's going on inside. It's nothing got to do with you. Zero got to do with you. So if we realize that everybody else is playing the game, but underneath it, they're fucking miserable because they're playing the game, it allows us to stop putting these expectations on ourselves that, okay, it isn't safe, or that I need to be this version of myself, or I need to be a chameleon to be accepted. And only when I feel accepted and safe, then I can play. So it all starts with your own expectations, really. You run the show. You run the show. And I think when people start realising that everybody else, I love the Sinead O'Connor quote, I absolutely love it. I listened to her audiobook, and it was something along the lines of, only when you lose your marbles can you find them again and learn to play the game better, right? We're all fucked. We're all surviving. We're all struggling. We're all managing. And when you realise that, you no longer feel the need to play the game, Dan. And you no longer put these expectations on yourself. So you do what you fucking want to do. And it's not breaking the law, and it's not causing anyone else harm. But you can play. Like, what was the difference between me this year building Lego and not building it last year? The internal dialogue, the expectations I place upon myself. Not the time, not the location. I can do it anywhere as long as I have the thing. But it was the expectations that I put upon myself. So if we all just took a step back, right, and viewed, because social media is great for certain things, but as a whole, it's ruining society, right? Why? Because you log on and you see fucking Peter, Jane and Mary, and they have the perfect lives, and you feel inadequate straight away. So you're then pushing harder to get more, let's say, money to buy more things to put up online to match this person. And we're all feeding into a negative cycle. So when does it stop? The answer is it doesn't stop until you stop it. You're the only one who has control over your life. And that's what I've done. I've stopped playing the game. And I've stopped, feeling the need to push. I've got out of the productivity trap. That's what I've done. I've got out of the hamster wheel that everybody else is stuck in, and I'm living life on my own terms. And if that means that tomorrow everything goes, it's fine, because I don't need everything. So I do agree with you in terms of there is an element of safety, and yes, like people need to, but again, it comes back to the thing of like, if you don't feel safe with the people you're surrounding yourself with, well, then you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people. So again, it's all back to you. Now, it's not easy. Like, what's that thing that they talk about, the growth period, the cocoon? In order to become this newer version of yourself, it's the messy middle. You go through the shit, and it does mean maybe unshedding old beliefs, old patterns, but also maybe some people as well. And that's not comfortable. But in order for you to get to this place of actually living in alignment with who you are and being able to express yourself, it all comes from your own action. It all comes from shedding the shit that you place upon yourself. But also, if you're saying that you're not comfortable opening up to this person, well, maybe it's not the right person. And why is that person there? Is it because of a social status game that you're playing? So it's a fucking hard pill to swallow, Dan. You would have told me last year, Kellie, you're the reason for your own suffering. I would have punched you straight in the face.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything here. I'm trying to make my life better. Yeah, but all the steps that you're taking to try and make your life better is the reason you're miserable, because you're playing the game that society tells you to play that will make you happy.
I think messy, the word you use there, messy, is right, because to give you a bit of pushback on your person thing there.
Yeah.
Right person, wrong person shouldn't make a difference. If you're in control of its internal, whether they're the right people or the wrong people, they can definitely have an influence on your life. If you're surrounded by negative people, it's harder to break through with a positive mindset. However, I could be able to stand in a room full of negative people or positive people, and that external energy makes no difference to my internal state. So it's both. you can go to the gym if you don't leave your runners beside the bed. But if you leave the runners beside the bed, you're making it easier on yourself to go to the gym. So why make it hard to achieve the goal? Make it easier. So yeah, don't surround yourself with negative people. Fine. But realistically, if you are living in your truth, whether they're negative or positive, it shouldn't really matter.
I'd push back though. They don't deserve to hear your voice. Why would you even bother telling them?
They don't, yeah. I'm not really commenting on them being in the room. I'm commenting on how you're experiencing them being in the room.
Yeah.
So whether they're there or not is kind of irrelevant. When you're feeling in a space where you've accepted yourself, they could be there, they could not be there. It doesn't really matter. I think the challenge is when you try and start to convince other people. Some people aren't in a space. Now we can use the word deserve. Some people don't deserve to hear it. Some people aren't in a space where your words are going to make any impact on them. And what I have found is the less I try with other people,
the better the response.
The better the response. And usually what happens is, to your point, is these people don't change their minds. The people who maybe are negative or trapped in their own loops. Because in my experience, this is a weird thing that happened to me, right? I'm not a compassionate person by nature. Something shifted in me the last few years. Part of it was due to, I shared with you before, it's not a shock on here. I have been to a couple of plant medicine ceremonies and I've had psilocybin ceremonies and things like that. And that fundamentally shifted how I see other people. So if there is somebody negative, I'm not like, your man's a bollocks.
Yeah.
In my head, you
genuinely are like, I wonder what's going on there.
I don't even wonder what's going on. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm a bollocks sometimes too.
Right,
like that's just a version of me on a bad day or whatever. Day. So I'm like, it's nothing to do with me. Like, he's being a prick or whatever, but fine. I don't try and intervene with the prickness or say you're a prick or judge the prick. I'm like, whatever. Like that's just some. And similarly, when I meet people who are really good, it's a pleasant experience. But I'm like, that's also a version of me. I could be that too. I could be either one of these two people and everything in between. And that's something that I did not feel like that before. I was a judger before, big time. And I'm a lot. Not saying I'm not now. I'm a lot less now. But I think what I'm trying to say here is, fully agree with you. Is it's an internal locus of control. Also fully agree with the fact that because of what we said, having negative people around and societal influence and social media, it's so hard to break out of that. The truth is always there, but it is really, 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 really difficult to accept and acknowledge it. As you found out after fucking 18 years. And it was almost a forced stop. For me, it was a forced realization. And that's why I feel like I have a little bit more self-awareness and an awakening now and a bit more present. But it was not a conscious plan, because every conscious plan I ever made moved me further away from acceptance, like you.
That's it, isn't it, Dan? The more you try, the further away you get.
Which is such a pain in the hole.
All you have to do is allow it. All you have to do is let go.
Because as we say this, there's someone sitting there going, but how?
Yes, how?
What's the formula, Kelly?
Well, what's the quote I put up online there the other day?
Do you want it now?
Read it out to me.
Healing isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were. And my little in brackets and parentheses here is it, or who you are.
Or you are. There you go.
Because I still am that person.
I am that person. Yes, probably who you are before all of the...
It was a Kellie Fennell original, by the way. I put that for Instagram.
Yeah, remembering who you are before the labels, before the experiences, before the traumas forced you to take on these learned behaviours.
How do I do that?
How do you do what?
How do I remember who I am?
There's no way to that without pain. So I suppose two things is stop the instant gratification and face the shit head on. That's what I did last year. That was the start. That was the catalyst to change for me. It's when, okay, bring it down, right? Real simple again. The child thing, all of these things that make it really simple to understand, right? The person who is really unhappy. I had this conversation with this woman last night who had said to me, Kelly, I would love to work with you, but I'm beyond help. Right? Had a conversation. She's like overweight, blah, blah, blah. Had this conversation with her. And she kept saying to me, I'm beyond help. I can't do this. And me personally, I just said, listen, I don't think we're the right fit for coaching now. That woman, she's already told herself that this thing is not possible, right?
When she says beyond help, I'll never lose the weight.
Yeah, never lose the weight. Sorry, that's what she means, okay? But the people that are struggling and all of these things and want to lose weight, the first act, I suppose, of getting to where you want to be, whether it's the weight loss or whether it's the self-discovery or being the person, you know, who you truly are. We said this word over and over again. It's accepting that there is going to be a sacrifice. There has to be a trade-off. So for the people who haven't lost the weight, right? Yes, they can probably still be consuming the wrong information. Like, it is your job to go and get the right information. But after, I say to my clients all the time, right? Awareness is the catalyst to change. But when you have that moment of awareness, Dan, of what is necessary for you to get from A to B, that's almost the easy bit. What's the next step? It's taking the fucking action. And that's the hard bit, because you can't, for example, go to the gym or eat in the deficit or whatever it is, when we're talking about weight loss, because it's just a simple version of it. You can't do that for a day. And it's pain. It's a pain point. Like you're trading the McDonald's, the handy, the easy for the meal prep. That's the pain there. But you can't just do that for one day. It has to be a thing on repeat. And that's what, happened to me last year. I was like naive, right? I hadn't had this moment of awareness. I am going to face this grief. And, again, joking, but on Monday I'll face it. On Tuesday I can share with the world my knowledge of how I faced the grief. I had already set my expectations up for failure there. And huge thing is expectation, to answer that question. Don't expect yourself to get the answers or to be fixed overnight, Happiness, not happiness, whatever the word is that we're trying to express, content, being is when, I've said it just a few minutes ago, is when reality meets expectation. What are we all doing? We're expecting these things of ourselves that are never going to happen. So therefore, in this maths equation, very, mathsy scientific of me, is that we will never get this being. Am I making sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we haven't allowed ourselves to redefine, if this was the simplest way, right, for me to explain this, we forget that we get to define our metric for success. And when I realized that, everything changed, because my metrics for success, for happiness, for contentment, were always set by the external. It was my own. Again, we are in control of our life. That's really uncomfortable for some people to take, but we are in control of our life, right? And I was always following the metrics of success that are set by society. More growth. Just constantly go. And when I realized, I sat down and through the shit and all of this shit, I was like, Kellie, you get to define your own metric for success. And it's not money in the bank, and it's not millions of followers, and it's not speaking all around the world. Chasing those things were the things that fucking led me to burnout, Dan. So maybe for people listening to this, just realizing that you get to decide your metrics for success. And it doesn't have to be what your neighbour Sharon's metrics for success are. And if Sharon's metrics for success are the fancy car, the fancy house, the fancy this, the holidays, Sharon's probably realistically.
Sharon's a bitch anyway.
But do you know what I mean? She's probably miserable. She's probably doing all those things to get the thing. It's just a vicious cycle, isn't it? It's stepping away from it. It's stepping away from
it's always
the rat race.
Back, yeah, and gaining space in that. With the weight loss thing, it's interesting because it took me a long time to really understand this. This is like so productive, bro, Dan,
right.
to shift to now Dan, which is pretty much the same guy, but slightly more aware. Was
who you are, Dan? Who you are?
Who I am. Returning to who I am. The weight loss thing is you're right. It's an easy way to illustrate a much more nuanced point. And you'd listen to the likes of any of the habit guys, any of the productivity guys talking about a shift in identity is the most important thing you can do for behavior change. Becoming the type of person who goes to the gym as opposed to going to the gym because it's an important habit. And with the weight loss thing, it's easier to illustrate this kind of in a linear way. Most of the people who want to expand, and I will say this with confidence, most of the people who want weight loss think that being skinnier will make them happy. We talked about this with you, not with you personally, with clients on the podcast. But the biggest shift I've ever seen in someone maintaining long-term weight loss, if we're just talking about weight loss, we're not talking about health, is becoming the type of person who wants to be around longer for, insert thing here, kids, family, friends, better life, etc. Then the meal prep, it's not even a challenge
It's not
anymore.
even a thing.
It's not even a thing because now I'm a person who does this thing, as opposed to I'm being driven by this expectation that skinny me is going to be happy me. It's not. It never is. It's never. With the male side of things, it's big me, bodybuilding me. Every single bodybuilder I've ever spoken to say the same thing. They're very honest about it. Complete insecurity. The bigger I am, the bigger armor I have against insecurity. But as soon as I realize that I'm not going to live forever and accept that truth, I realize how futile all of this is. That's part one. And then also when I can shift my brain, just a subtle shift in perception to, I actually want to be able to, the cliche, lift my kids and run around and live a long, healthy life, etc. If you're actually able to embody that, it'll completely fundamentally change your relationship with health forever. I'm in that phase now. I'm still playing a relatively high level of sport. So I'm still being driven by the achieve, win, bigger. But I have 3 kids, one of the way, four kids. I actually now feel, God, I would love to still be really active in 20 or 30 years' time. I knew this 20 years ago, but I've no kids.
I'm in that period as well. It's like, I'm no longer doing this. Like, I used to use training as like, I could have gone to drugs or drink. Like, training was my savior, a complete distraction. Yeah. Whereas now, honestly, it's just like, I'm doing like bench press with the girls and stuff, and we're doing bicep curls with them. And for me, health now is one. This shift maybe happened about 5 years ago, but for me, training is for my mental health, not at all. Obviously physical benefits, but years ago it was like to be the strongest, to be the fastest. But now it's 2 things. It's mental health, but it's also kids, the health span. Like, health span to me is number 1. I don't want to get to 90 and not be able to wipe my own arse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to be able to play with them. But what you were saying there, Dan, about identity change and all, right? One thing popped into my head. Do you remember I had Paul Scanlon on this podcast, yes. Right? He said a line on that podcast, and you know, when something like hits you, bang, straight in the face. And I've quoted him ever since. And he said, dun, dun, dun. He says, I'm going to fuck it up now.
Something along the lines of...
You can't have a behaviour change without a belief change. You can't have a sustained behaviour change without a belief change. And so many people, weight loss, insert anything here, a goal here, they will themselves into success. If I just, Monday I'll start and this time it's going to be different. But they haven't had that belief change, the fundamental belief change of, you know, they probably don't know about energy balance. They probably don't know about sustainability, that it has to fit into your life, that you're not the same as this person, your needs and all of these different things. They haven't had that belief change around nutrition, around training, around mindset. So they're just going to go back into that cycle. And that belief change comes into the equation nicely. We don't necessarily, Dan, have to change reality to be, I was going to say happy, to be embodied, like all of these things, content. The equation that there, you don't actually have to change the reality part. You can just change your expectation. And then you can just be happy.
Fact.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought one stage, you know, money equals happiness. Now I don't believe that. Yes, a certain amount of money is required to live, like where I'm not fucking tick. I'm not over here like, you know, being totally out of touch with reality. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm not stupid. I'm not like, I'm a realist. But also, you just change your expectations of how you want to live your life and what's going to make you happy. And then you end up being happy as a byproduct. You don't actually have to change your reality. So many people will try that reality. What's the change in reality? They'll break their fucking arses. They'll break their bodies. They'll do everything at the expense of getting all that money. Yeah, they're trying to change their actual reality. Well, all they had to do was change the expectation. Actually, that's not what's going to make me happy.
So, to try and wrap this in a little bit, right? I want to see if you agree with me on this, because most of the conversations I have, I say this a lot, come back to a core of what can I do? And there seems to be a couple of really high leverage actions that we can take, even though we're not supposed to be taking action, it's supposed to be just being and accepting. There's supposed to be a couple of there seems to be a couple of high leverage actions we can take. The first thing I will say is everything that we've spoken about has come down to the one thing that you've kept coming back to it, expectation. And expectation is linked in with perception for me. How we see what we think we're supposed to do, how we perceive the world, the lens that we have, our version of the truth. Me and Brian did this episode. This is my truth versus their truth. My truth is the lens, my expectations, my trauma and behaviors and environment and everything. That forms my truth. But there's my truth and then there's their truth. We all have our own versions of their truth. But the closer we can, the more of our version and the lens we can remove, the closer we can get to actual truth. I believe the more content we're going to be and the more present and peaceful we'll be. However, that is possibly the single most difficult thing for a human being to do is shift their expectation and beliefs. It's coded into us from when my son falls and bangs his knee. My reaction there is hardwired into him now going forward. For him to be able to undo that is probably one of the most difficult things for a human to do. Most people listening to this podcast now know every single technique known to man around habit change and fitness and performance and diet and business. And they probably know all of them, way more than me. That's the type of person tends to listen to these shows. They're looking for more of that, consume more information. And they'll probably all agree, listening right now, that changing your belief around something is the highest leverage, but the most difficult thing. So the things that and you've said all three of them here today as well, the things that I noticed keep coming up over and over and over and over and over again. Practical things that we can do.
Right.
One is stop consuming.
Create, not consume.
Even if you're not creating, stop consuming. It's probably the highest return for the lowest. It's not easy, but it's not a huge amount of effort to stop consuming because you're cutting something out as opposed to having to go and do something. I'm not suggesting go for a walk. I'm not suggesting climb a mountain. I'm not suggesting pick a big hard task to do. Stop consuming things, bad food, drugs and alcohol if possible. I'm not really talking about them, but consuming information and input and bias and direction. And so I'm basically talking about social media. And if you can minimize or reduce the amount you're consuming, it seems to be a really common thread. You said it today. It seems to be a really common thread that most people I speak to, that's been a part of their journey. And when I think back, it's been a big part of me feeling much better, much more of the time is when I'm consuming less. It's practical action I think most people can take. Stop consuming. That's one, right? And I'll let you comment on all of these afterwards. Number two is try and create a bit more space in your life. That's really difficult. But what I found is if I stop consuming so much, there's a lot more opportunity to create
time.
space.
Well, that's funny, Mary. You've 3 hours scroll time there last week.
It just seems to be a nice little practical step because I talk about space all the time. And sometimes it's a really abstract idea of space. It's psychological space. It's emotional space. Sometimes it's physical space. Sometimes it's just sitting looking at a wall. Sometimes it's meditation. Sometimes it's journaling and walking, whatever. But creating some form of space in your life creates the environment where some of this stuff that you've been ignoring starts to bubble up to the surface. So now I'm not distracting as much and I'm creating a little bit of space for something to come up. So now it's going, whether I want or not, it's going to come up. For you last year, it came up like a fucking nuclear bomb. It just came bursting through the walls and hit you in the face. But does it need to be like that? This is potentially a way to allow it to come up.
To avoid that.
And to manage it a little bit as it comes up in dribs and drabs. You know, maybe you walk into a room, sit down, and all of a sudden your head will explode and all this stuff will come in, but it's unlikely. What most likely will happen is things that are uncomfortable for you will start to bubble up to the surface and they'll enter your awareness. And what we would tend to do is consume our way out of that, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, rock and roll, social media, whatever it is, it's distract. Go training, build your business, earn more money. That's what we do to stop that bubbling up. So those two steps for me just seem to be really practical things. Consume a bit less and give yourself a bit more space and see what happens. And then when that does happen, the last step for me at the moment, the last of the triad that I figured out is acceptance. Acknowledge and accept. You don't have to figure out the emotions in my experience just yet. Maybe down the road there's a little bit of work to do. But if you're sitting there and there's stuff coming up, just acknowledge. That's uncomfortable. Brian taught me as well a few little really simple, easy techniques as well, like about sitting in the emotions. There's a million ways of doing it. But what I do is if I'm in one of those moments where I feel something coming up, and it could be anxiety and it could be anger and it could be fear, and they're usually they're usually not nice. Literally just putting my hand on my stomach and accepting or naming the emotion, I am anxious. I'm not trying to stop it, not trying to breath work my way out of it or meditate or move out of it. Just, I am anxious. What I would usually do right now is anything else. Anything
other than this.
Literally anything. Yeah. And all the meditation stuff for me, I only realized years later was just to not have to focus on something else. Very simply just accept it and acknowledge that is an emotion. For me, from everybody I've spoken to, these seem to be the highest return in terms of this behavior change piece. Because after this, then you can start to do all the strategies and techniques and the journaling and the exercise and the diet and all that kind of stuff. They're all amazing. But they will not have lasting change in my experience unless this is part of it. How does that land?
I actually love all of those three. And when you said acceptance, right, I just I thought you were going to ask me to give you a bloody another 4 one, right? So
I need 10 more.
I need a 6, yeah, or else it's not enough. But no, acceptance, right? Because I was just thinking there, one of the biggest things that, and it's practical, right? It's give yourself permission to change.
I love that.
Because we're, again, just not to harp on about this, but I am Kellie. I am this fitness person. I help people lose weight. And that's my identity, right? Or that was my identity. And I was so wrapped up in that identity. And it was the labels that I'd given myself. It was the labels that the world had given me as well, because I was getting all of this praise for being that person. I was terrified to actually let go of that. Who am I without that? And just, it's giving yourself permission to change who you are, who you want to be. And I think that comes, and just a full circle moment here, one of the biggest or the first steps that will result in lasting lifetime change is unlearning. So giving yourself permission to unlearn. Because, Dan, you will pass on beliefs to your kids, right? Some of them amazing, some of them not so amazing. But maybe when your kids are older, they won't let go of those beliefs or those systems or those patterns because they've been given to them by someone they really trust, like you. And that's what I've learned. A lot of life is unlearning things that were passed down to you that no longer serve you anymore. But we can have such an emotional attachment to them because the people who passed them down to us, we love them so much. And it was never out of a place of badness. But there's an analogy, and I'll finish off with this. Have you heard of the lamb in the oven analogy?
No, but I'm intrigued because I'm starving.
So basically this little girl, right, her mom's cooking a leg of lamb. Before she puts the lamb in the oven, she cuts off both ends of the leg of lamb, right, puts it in the oven. And the little girl says, Mom, why did you cut off both ends? And she said, oh, it's what I've always done. I learned from my mom, your granny. The little girl's lucky enough to have her granny, goes to her granny and says, Granny, why when you're cooking a leg of lamb do you cut off both ends? And she said, oh, it's just something that I learned from my mother. And this little one, super lucky, has a great granny. And she runs to the great granny and she says, Great granny, when you're cooking a leg of lamb, why do you first cut off both ends before you put it in the oven? And the great granny said, because my oven was too small, right? And we show up in life and we do these things that we always do, generational things that have been passed down. But it's okay to let them go, Dan, if they're not serving you anymore. And it's okay to actually do what you want to do in life.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. It's mad you say that. We will finish now, but it's mad you say that. At the moment, we're doing a lot of work, psychological work with my football team. And it's really interesting because I'm 37 and there's lads in the team who are 17. It's mad. But it's actually a really interesting experiment.
Dynamic.
Because we're in this space. I always find sport is so unique because we're in this space where we do all have a very aligned goal. And we're all there together to achieve this goal. Very rare nowadays, even when you work for a company or a business, it's rare enough that everyone's aligned. That you're there because you want to make money for your family, whatever, but the owner of the business is there because they have the mission. And it's rare enough. Everyone talks about culture. It's bullshit. A lot of these big companies, it's really difficult to generate an aligned culture. But on a sports team, in some circumstances, you've all these people there who are all there trying to achieve this thing together. So it's quite a unique environment. And one of the things we've been working on recently, which my manager brought in, was this idea. There's probably a proper name for the concept, but do you know how they train a lot of elephants in some of these countries where they domesticate elephants? Is when they're young, they tie a rope around the elephant's leg and the elephant can't escape, obviously, because it's only a small elephant. But as the elephant grows bigger, they keep the rope on the leg, but you've got this 1 ton elephant with a tiny bit of rope around his leg and it never breaks free. Now, whether this actually happens or not, I don't know. It's one of these probably old wives' tales. The elephants are fucking running rampage all over the world. But the idea is that a lot of the conditioning from our younger years or our previous generations, smaller oven, rope around the leg, I could easily break free from. But I'm just caught in this unconscious pattern. And this is the Carl Jung thing. I love rolling out my bro psychology. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you will call it fate. My great granny had an oven that was too small. Hence, everybody afterwards doesn't even think about it. It's an unconscious thing that we just cut the legs off our lamb. Whereas what we're working on the sports team is, why do we hold ourselves back from life? Why do we have so much fear it doesn't seem to come from anywhere. It seems to be in here, as we spent this entire conversation talking about. I have this idea that if I step outside of this, if I pull my leg free from this chain and let the shackles off, something negative is going to happen. But it's an abstract, weird anxiety that just kind of hangs around everywhere and I can't point my finger at it, so I'll just not look at it. That's the idea of the rope around the leg as well.
I'm not sure if it's true for the elephant thing, but it is true in mice. So they give them electric shock. In a certain area, And the mouse will, or the rat will never go outside of that area.
Should they do with dogs and electric fences and stuff? Yeah.
But another element to that, Dan, as well, is it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. It's so pain aversion. Everything in life that's going to get you to the next level or make you progress, whatever progressing is for you, is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I was only chatting to my clients recently and I was talking about this. I was like, you look at who you are today and you could be a completely different person this time next year, like terms of body composition and all of that. But to get from there to there is going to be sacrifice. It will be uncomfortable. You will have to push yourself outside of these boundaries. And I gave an example. My mom used to work in a restaurant down the road. And I remember she came back one day and she had lost it. And she was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, what's wrong? And she said, they're after changing the till system in work. How am I going to manage? And it's so true. And 2 days later, she's like, this is brilliant. I can do all these things on it and I don't have to go into the kitchen and blah, blah, blah. But we just fear change so much. It's so uncomfortable, but it's necessary for growth. And the last thing I'll say to you, Dan, is, right, there's one quote that I love, because when that elephant does break that rope, it will never be tricked again, right? Your self-limiting beliefs are only glass ceilings. They only exist until you realise that they can be broken. And once you break them once, you will never go back. Like, think about the people. I could never run a 5K. I could never run a marathon. That's not the type of person I am. They run a marathon and now next year they've run 30 marathons. You know, these limitations that we place on ourselves, it's so uncomfortable to push past. But when you do, the next level opens. And as you said, there will never stop being levels in life.
No, but when you realise you can move through these levels, that's where you are now. That's real living. That's when you hopefully get to the end of your life. And even if you haven't hit because you mentioned earlier on in the conversation, the mountain, and I'm even changing what the mountain is. What the fuck is the mountain like? I'm going to stand on top of this mountain. If I get to the end of my life and I look back, and despite having achieved, quote unquote, nothing, if I feel like I've lived, and I have this phrase, a full life. Not that I don't have regrets, because I don't think that's realistic for a human being. I will have regrets. But if I feel like I spent my days experiencing and being and so much more aligned than I had been previously, and I was always, not that I was always moving forward, because that sounds very productivity, bro. I was always working to live more in alignment with how I actually feel. If I can lie on my deathbed and feel that that's how I lived my life, I feel that's going to be a life well lived, and I'll be content. But then I'm even like, is that what I'm chasing? I'm chasing this one moment before I die to go, yeah, that was good. Or is it that I'm trying to be
no,
right
it's
now?
a reflection of the whole thing. Are you going to be happy with it?
Exactly. Yeah. That's just a metric for, was every day the type of day I would have liked it to be, for the most part, because obviously life throws us challenges. But I love that. Yeah. Once you've broken through, you never.
It can't hold you back anymore.
Can't hold you back. And that's why I like this idea of, like, once you've started to accept that bit of, you realize, one, it's not that bad, and two, I can do it.
I can do it.
So I can keep going deeper. You don't have to deal with your entire life's trauma by sitting in your room for 5 minutes by yourself. Yeah. And it's not going to be done in one session of therapy or whatever. But doing it this way and giving yourself permission, I like how you added that in there as well, giving yourself the permission to proceed on this journey unlocks a whole new life. That's my experience. You're sharing that your experience. The more people I talk to who are on this kind of journey, they say these things with light in their eyes, like, I'm living a different life. And I'm like, what changed? Like, nothing.
That's it. I realised.
No. What course did you do? I didn't do a course. What therapist did you see? Doesn't matter. Nothing changed. It's all in here. Like, fuck no. How do I get
the
that?
answer.
Yeah. That's why it can be frustrating. But I think, and thank you for your time. We'll wrap it up now. I think why constantly doing these, we'll do this again in 6 months' time. Yeah, every time we see each other, we'll be saying the same thing. But for us, I won't speak for you. For me, hearing you say this is reminding me to keep doing this. It's constant. Oh, it's okay to do it. Oh, Kellie's doing this. Okay, I can do this. You're inspiring me. I'm inspiring me. Brian's inspiring me. I can use that as fuel. Whereas the fuel I used before was the same fuel you were using. Fear, insecurity, less than. Now this is my fuel. And my hope for the podcast is people will listen. 85% of people listen to this, they'll go, that was really cool. Won't resonate. Maybe there'll be one or two people who go, oh. Because that's what happens to me.
Yeah.
Every now and again I hear something like, oh, that's me. And it really clicks. So that's why I love doing this, and why I appreciate you being so honest and candid there. So thank you so much for sharing. I want to say to you, I'm delighted for you, because I hadn't seen you in ages, and you'd mentioned you were really struggling last year. And I know sometimes it's hard to keep connected and keep track and stuff like that, but I'm so delighted. When I met you, I was like, when people say this happened, but now I'm feeling like this, you're like, oh, okay, I'll wait, like fucking
I'll
see.
see.
Yeah. But you could see, I feel it as soon as you walked in here. So I'm really, really delighted that you've not that you had to go through, obviously I don't think we've actually answered this question for people. People have to go through this, but I think the accepting that stuff will come and happen and giving yourself permission to experience it is something that you did last, whether you had an element of control in it or not. You've allowed yourself to come out a different side of it, as opposed to, right, I feel grand now, let's fucking get back to
let's
it.
go again.
It's different.
Back in.
It's different now. I can sense that off you, and you've shared that. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for your honesty. Is there anything that we haven't covered you think is important to wrap this up, or are you happy to?
I'm good. I just want to say congrats to you too on the news of the new Baba.
Oh yeah, thank you very
I love
much.
it.
Yeah, we're delighted. 4. Madness.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah. But I shared with you before, I got a lovely message from somebody which really, Jill, my partner, always wanted a big family. I did too, to be fair. I resisted from 2. I was like, we've got 2 now. And then resisted from 3. We've got 3 now. We're absolutely over the moon. We're so blessed. We're so grateful. We're really, really happy. But I got a message from somebody who's a man, who's a friend of mine. And it was just the most beautiful reminder for me. Everyone's situation is different. But for me, he was talking about, like, think about Christmases, think about all these different events where you're going to have all the children and all the buzz and all the happiness, and all the worry I had about having more children completely dissipated.
Gone.
Genuinely, I have moments where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Change again. But I'm so blessed, I'm so grateful, and I just wanted to share this as well, because sometimes I never hear it from men, really. And when I do hear it, sometimes it's very forced and conceited. I'm so grateful for this. It's going to be massively stressful and challenging, but I'm in a really lucky position that I have 3 beautiful children. I have another one on the way. We've got great support. I've got great friends. There's so much goodwill coming my way. And it's just magic. It's just amazing. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I can feel it from you as well.
Delighted.
I love it.
Yeah. Terrified and delighted.
Yeah.
It's mad. But Kelly, you're a legend. Thank you so much. Tell the good people the podcast is coming back.
Yes, my podcast is making a return. I was in the too much of a bad situation last year to focus on the podcast. But no, the goal for 2026, again, it's just to do more of the shit that I want to do. Do you know what I mean? Not that it's going to, well, it does always. I actually get a lot.
Why do you like doing podcasts?
Yeah, what?
Why do you like doing podcasts?
I love doing podcasts because the vulnerability element, I was just going to say, I get so many people, right, Dan, still. Now, I haven't recorded an episode of podcast in over 6 months. And I still get people message me on a daily basis saying, like, one person messaged me and said, I am still here because I listened to your podcast episode number 10 yesterday. Like, honestly, right? And every time I get a message about the podcast, it's something that has really helped someone. And I started the podcast not for that reason at all. I started it as a resource for clients, like an evergreen resource to make my job easier. But it has turned into something different. And you know, by the clients, the last few, not clients, guests I had on, it's not that anymore. And there definitely will be, you know, nutrition and all those podcast episodes as we go. But the underlying current of it is more like self-progression, self-improvement.
Self-acceptance,
Acceptance.
Kelly. Yeah, no improvement. We don't need to improve. We just need to become someone new. Healing isn't becoming someone new, it's remembering who you were. Or who you are.
Can we edit that on Instagram? Maybe not.
Can we add on Instagram? We're going to put this
post
out.
It again.
Post it Put it
Dan's,
just in brackets. Random guy who you are. That's amazing. Yeah. And
so the pressure's on now, Dan. Thanks for telling the world that the podcast is coming back. So I have to do it now.
You do have to do it now. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. But I do think I'm excited. And like on the podcast guy, I run the studio and all that kind of stuff. So people roll their eyes and say podcasts are amazing. I love doing this for that reason as well. We get to sit down and have. Me and you have these conversations anyway to a certain level, but when we're doing it on mic, it forces me to develop the ideas a little bit more, because I can talk shite to you and you know what I mean.
Yeah, same.
I'll probably talk shite here now as well, but it forces me to try and develop the ideas a little bit more.
And express it in a way that is like hits digestible. Or like digestible. Yeah.
It's not just mush.
And us two can just like hear when the mics are off, we're like talking absolute shite.
Yeah.
But maybe articulate it a bit better on podcasts.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to your podcast journey going forward.
Thanks,
and thank you so much for your time today. This wasn't the direction I was going to take this at all.
Wasn't it?
No, I have 2 quotes here on this page. This whole page over here was all the other stuff I was going to talk about. We'll save that for a different. But when we spoke this morning, I kind of knew we were going to change gears a little bit, and I just wanted to get a feeling off you. I think it was a beautiful conversation. I think you sharing that with us has just helped me so much more get my head around it again. Like I said just before there, constantly being reminded of people like you on this journey really helps me to lean in and accept it more. And like, I'm on a slow version of I'm on the donkey and you're fucking firing up the hill in the motorbike.
Yeah, because Dan, you're pushing it back against what you're supposed to be doing. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And me too. I need to be constantly listening to podcasts and reading books that consolidate this in me as well. Because it's so easy to be pulled back.
Oh, it just 1 minute, 60 seconds could have me spiraling back down into old habits and bad mindsets and stuff like that. And that is human. And I think that is why we said earlier on, there's no mountain. It's cliche. I don't even want to say this.
The mountain is you. That's a book, Brett.
Finish the podcast. Somebody turn off the cameras. We're done. Kellie Fennell, the book. Is that the book that's going to be coming out? The mountain is you?
No, that's a book I read. Brianna Weiss.
Oh, is that already a book?
Incredible book.
Really?
Exactly what we've talked about today.
Amazing. Okay, I must put that one on the list. The ever-growing list of things that are
I
going to change my life
same.
and improve me as a person.
Give me more.
Give me more input.
That will change my life.
Kellie, you're a gem. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. And we'll keep an eye out for the podcast. Anything else coming up, or you're just going to be this year? I'm
doing retreats. I'm doing meetups. I'm doing speaking events.
Retreats? Tell me a little bit about the retreats.
Yes. So it's only for clients only though.
Okay.
So last year I hosted my first retreat in it was booked before we hit the wall.
I remember you were going to book that.
So we went to Madeira. On it was 3 nights. I brought 25-ish clients over.
All ladies?
All ladies, yeah. And yeah, it was incredible.
Wow.
It was an incredible experience for me and them as well.
What's the one take home from those retreats for you?
For me,
because I know they got loads out of it.
Yeah, no. But for everybody, it was the same thing. It was allowing ourselves to be. So what... I know we're going to chat or we'll keep going now, but what's the resounding theme that came from every single woman that went on that retreat is, wow, I had time to be myself and not have to be a mother, not have to be a wife, not have to be this person in this job. And it was just that we the definition of a retreat is to come away from mundane, average, normal life. It's to pull back and to actually look at things. And that's what we got from that retreat. It wasn't we went onto the side of the mountain and we're fucking legs crossed doing kumbaya. We actually just were present as ourselves. It was beautiful.
You created some beautiful space where people could stop consuming and start working on acceptance.
There you go. Your 3 steps, Dan.
Amazing.
Make a podcast.
That can't be your tagline now for the retreat.
No, yeah, robbed.
Kellie, we went over the 2 hours. I didn't intend to, but we're 2 hours and 1 minute. So we'll wrap it up here.
Right, go on. Thanks a million, Dan.
Thank you so much. And I'll see you on the next one because we're not done. Folks, thank you so much for listening to that absolutely brilliant episode with Kellie Fennell. If you did enjoy the conversation and you know somebody else who might find it useful, please do send them the link. As one of the biggest ways that podcasts like this grow are by people like yourself sharing it with friends and family. And it is a massive, massive help. Thank you so much to Kellie for her time on this episode and really looking forward to her own podcast reigniting this year in 2026. I hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And as always, I will see you on the next one.